but you got those horse blinders on that you're so one dimensional that you just don't even want to hear it. And it was funny in Oklahoma. I had a friend. He was a tech sergeant with me, and he was like that because he was the NCOIC of console ops. So he was in charge of the command post operate, where the controllers work. And every time something would happen, his flow was, I need to do this first, this first, this first. But other controllers are not like that. Other controllers like, all right, let me do this first, and then I go to here and there. So he always would be just one dimensional, just, I want it done my way. If I don't get it done my way, then don't do it at all. To the point where the superintendent was like, dude, you can't be like that. Because if you're like that, the controllers are not going to want to do the work. My superintendent used to tell him, you can't be one-dimensional, because if you're one-dimensional, these controllers are going to they're going to start despising you. Two, they're going to look at the schedule and be like, oh my God, I got to work with him. And three is they're just going to be like, I'm trained and certified. I know what I'm doing, so let me go. Let me do what I need to do. And a lot of times you get that where people just like, they say they trust you, but they only trust you if you're doing it the way they want it done. That's right. So that's not really trust. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's a shady way of trusting people, which is really not, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is one of the things leaders really struggle with, and that is empowering their people, right? And there's several reasons why they do it, but they really struggle with that. And because they really want the result to be exactly how they want it to be. And that was one of the things that I thought was successful in my leadership career is I would say, hey, Izzy, this is yours. I want you to here. This is what I'm trying to get after. You do it the way you think is the best way to get it done. Right. And so that always worked. I learned from that. And then I just started using that as a tool. Right. And I was like, okay, how do I buy ownership into the organization? I empower my people. I mean, it is really that simple, but I would think that some leaders really struggle with being able to let go of things, let go of control for several reasons, but that's really their problem. And I wish they could do it better because, our workers deserve to have some level of say and some level of empowerment into how tasks are being dealt out.
Because Mike, what was funny was when me and Satchell were stationed in Vegas, he appointed me as the training manager, so I was happy. I didn't have to work shift schedule no more. I only had to come twice a month. I had to work the console, but there was one thing that I really appreciated from him was every time I would walk into his office, he would tell me, and I don't know if you remember this, that he would tell me, here comes the union rep. What does the union have to complain about now? So I was like the union facilitator, the mediator. And I used to come in there. He looks at me, he goes, what does the union want now? Is the union rep is in my, what do you want, guys? But it was just that fostering, that teamwork, that cohesion. Like he didn't need everybody to come into his office to complain and everything else, because even though he opened door, he allowed anybody to come in there. But I was so cool with them that they would just be like, hey, Izzy, I'm working shift. Can you just let them know that, hey, this problem, that? I'd be like, I got you guys. And I'm glad that I had that relationship with you because you did. When you said open door, it was open door. A lot of time leaders don't stick to that. They say open door, but it's only when it's convenient for them. When it's convenient that it's a problem that they could just nip in the butt real quick. Because if it's the big issue, they're like, oh, man, I should have never had open door policy. But, that's right. But man, that shit used to make me like I used to go in there, look at him, and he'd be like, I just got in. He'd be like, dude, what does the union want? I just walked in, I sat down, and I'd be like, here are the list of complaints. Item number 1, and I used to scratch them off and everything. But to segue from that, one beauty of me being able to do that with you was that you listened and you communicated. You always had a response. If you didn't have it, you always told me, I don't have the answer for you right now, but I will get it and I will get back to you. And a lot of times people don't stick to that. They'll just say they'll listen or they hear you and they'll just be like, okay, let me work on it. But then you don't hear nothing back from them. So one of the things in your book that you highlighted as well is I'm a big proponent on listening and verbal communication. You know what I'm saying? I'm big on that. But I like that you wrote, listening is not hearing words.
That's right.
So elaborate on that, because I'm a big proponent, and I always tell people, don't hear me, because their response to be, "Oh, I'm hearing you." I always tell them, I don't want you hearing me. I want you to listen to me. So what's the difference, and why you wrote that listening is not hearing words?
So you've looked really deep into my book, and so that's really awesome. I mean, that makes me feel good as an author, because those are some details that I want people to get, right. But listening, in my view, is not just hearing the words that are coming out of their mouths. Mm-hmm. It has a lot to do with their nonverbals, right? It has a lot to do with what they did not say, right? It has a lot to do with the word choice that they did use, and the emotions that come in across the table, right? Mm-hmm. And so you got to pay attention to all of that. And, we talk about this and through our PMEs and stuff like this, right. But it's vital for you to just see what's really not being said, what is being said, and how it's being said, because that would really put into context everything that you're hearing, mm-hmm. right? And so I often pay attention to that, and I may just not even answer your question or your statement.
Right.
I'll be like, wait, tell me how you're doing, mm-hmm. right? I mean, and people will be like, hey, wait a minute, this is not it. But I'd rather find out what place you're coming from right now, so then I can understand what's brought you into this moment right now that maybe have you so emotional or so angry or even happy, right? Mm-hmm. And so I do that at home with my own kids.
Yeah.
and I know that it works there, and there's no difference, right? I mm-hmm. see leadership both. It's not confined to an institution or your family. And so I use the same tactics and methods with my family that I do in my workplace. Right?